Yeah, just a few words as to why I chose the T2, Yourlife T2, from the myriad of bikes, e-bikes that are out there on the market. Yeah, so the idea was I always had in mind whichever bike that I was going to purchase, that was really the base for a customization project. And so the key decision points related to the frame design. So I wanted a bike that has a kind of a three-dimensional frame, in the sense of it's got an area under the seat which is ideal for storage, etc. And so it's, dare I say, the width of the bike, and also the general bike design. So the bike has what I'd call a flat deck at the front, and I always knew I'd be looking to update the battery capacity. So the items that I was looking for was space in the centre, maybe for a larger battery here. This area could actually take a 25 amp, similar style but 25 amp hour battery, either 48 or 52. I find 48 actually quite, I'm not going to say quite the sweet spot, because I think actually the sweetest spot is 52 in terms of capacity. So yeah, and the other driver was that it needed to be a 250 watt motor, because I was minded that with the 750 watt bike I had before, the IDPU Z8, that the 750 is very capable, has got great torque for getting up hills and the like, but is totally legal. And I wanted a bike that I could customise, but keep within the legal bounds of the current EAPC laws in the UK. And so one of the key ones there is that it can't have a larger than 250 watt continuous output capacity. Now, there are ways, technical ways as it were, to fudge that line by having a larger motor but limit it to 250 watt. That potentially would give you greater ampage capacity that you could run through that motor. And so apart from speed, torque is the other key consideration. Now, this bike is advertised, I suppose written in crayon, it was 100 Newton meter torque, being advertised by the company. In reality, torque is kind of defined partly by the motor but also by the ampage, and it's running 17 amps. So that claim at very best was going to be dubious, and in reality, yeah, it performs more like a 250 watt than it does a higher torque 750 watt motor. No surprises there. So yeah, so the driver, as I say, was that it needed to be 250 watts, limited by on the throttle and on the pedal assist to 15.5. On the throttle, I didn't want a twist throttle because I think EAPC talks to that twist throttles, unfortunately, don't pass muster on that. But you can have a throttle as long as it doesn't propel the bike, as it were, or drive the motor past walking speed, which I think is either about 3.6 miles an hour. Now that is very restrictive, to say the very least, because if you've got, as this bike has, the pedal assist is a cadence pedal assist, not torque, it means that as soon as you start pedaling, the bike will instinctively, or it's designed to deliver all 15.5 miles an hour to the rear power to the rear view to the rear hub motor, which makes manoeuvring the bike at low speeds very difficult, because you're constantly having to feather that power in with the brake, which cuts the power off to the motor. So you get a little push, and then you have to use a brake to cut the power to it, and then don't pedal, and then let the bike roll, etc. So it's very finicky. So having the throttle push you to 3.6, 4 miles an hour, means you can manoeuvre very slowly the bike. So yeah, that was part of design, part of the rationale for this particular type of bike. It was driven predominantly by the frame design, the flat deck for the additional battery, the space in the middle for a larger frame battery, and yeah, basically the lines, as it were. So the bike has, to my eye at least, a line that runs from the back seat all the way through to where the headlight is. So that's where, let's say, that's the flat deck. It also has a line, strangely enough, that runs from where my finger is along this frame line, and it actually picks up with the, I don't know whether that's a better angle, it picks up with the mudguard support. So again, that's a useful reference. And then you've got the lines that run along down here, and down through the suspension. Now, when you look at some other e-bike designs, I'm not sure whether, I'm sure it was done with some degree of thought, but many e-bikes, those lines are at best conflicting. I'm sure structurally they're perfect, but in terms of the bike's aesthetic, less so. And so that's what really drove me towards the T2. Dare I say, I shouldn't have said last, but that means least, I also wanted a bike with a front and back suspension. I'm not saying getting on in life, but not as young as I used to be, and having that comfort of rear suspension was also probably about number 3, number 2 on my list for the bike frame design. So far, as I said, I've done about 1,000 miles on this bike, and so far the components are holding up. In terms of the weight, because now I've added several kilograms of battery to the middle of the bike. The brakes, I've updated those, so they come with the single piston calipers, you can see there, but I updated them to effectively dual piston, and the reason behind that was that with the single piston, the brake disc itself warps as the single piston pushes the brake disc towards the static caliper, which is probably about 2 millimeters away on the right hand side, the back of the brake, and that produces a judder that you basically feel through the frame when you're braking. With the dual pistons, where it's pushed on either side equally against the disc pad, you don't get the judder, and so in terms of smooth riding and control of the bike, that is something I needed to update. It's something which I picked up on the identified on the IDPU Z8, and it's about £50 for the brake calipers, which are hydraulic brake calipers. So you get two benefits. One is that you've actually got greater caliper force against the rotor, and because it's from dual sides, from both sides, it means you get a much smoother braking experience, a stronger braking experience and a smoother braking experience using that. But it's a step down from a full hydraulic brake levers and piping system, etc. I might go down that route later on, but at the moment I'm going to hold off on that, because the braking on those is on the bike at the moment is sufficient, or feels sufficient. What I have in the pipeline is an update on the tyres. I've just bought a new set of tyres for the bike. I'll keep these ones as spares. They're actually the ones that you can kind of roll flat, so if I am going on a kind of a very, very long cruise, I might even bring a spare tyre with me. That probably speaks more to my psychology than it does the risk, the real risk. But yeah, the other thing that I really want to put on the bike is a charger unit. So again, the bike's design is for long distance, I say relatively long distance cruising by e-bike standards, and I'd like to be able to charge the bike while I'm out. So there's a unit, I'm going to probably get it wrong, I think it's a J1772, that is a converter that you can plug into car chargers effectively, and then plug your charger into that. It's got like a 13-amp socket on the back end, and you can plug your charger into that, so it kind of extend the range even further. So yeah, so that's probably the mods on it. But I thought I'd just say a few words about the rationale for the selecting the T2, Yourlife T2 e-bike as the basis for the build. Okay.